Hi, welcome back to my channel, Open the Door. This is episode 89. Is it the dark night? Is it an ego death? Or is it existential crisis? These are three different aspects of the healing journey that I'm going to talk about today. And that sounds uplifting, doesn't it? Well, I've been through all three. And the ultimate outcome of these stages of the healing journey is very positive, but it's not easy. And I want to help you get through it. So I'm going to describe what each one of these things is: the dark night, ego death, and the existential crisis. And I'm going to talk about how they overlap and what the ultimate outcomes are, hopefully, from these phases. So all of these experiences are deeply transformative, but they differ in the focus and the triggers and the outcomes. So they can overlap and interact, which can feel like a complete collapse of your reality. It brings about mental confusion and emotional despair and spiritual crisis. These are intense periods of transformation. And I'm going to give you a guide and tips on how to tell the difference, and then how to surrender and not resist when you go through these things: the dark night, the ego death, or the existential crisis. So I'm going to start with the dark night. It's a deep, emotional, spiritual purging. The focus of the dark night of the soul is a loss of connection to your faith, your spirituality, and your higher power. It can be triggered by things like spiritual crisis, loss of faith, intense suffering, and personal tragedies. The experience of the dark night of the soul can feel like profound loneliness and despair, a lot of emotional pain, and a sense of divine abandonment, not sensing God or feeling His presence in your life. The outcome of the deep night, if it's navigated successfully, brings about a deeper spiritual understanding, resilience, and complete transformation. So that's the dark night of the soul. It sounds scary, I know, and it can be. It can be. This is not easy stuff. So moving on to the next thing, then, that's the ego death, which is the spiritual and transcendent experience. The focus during the ego death is a dissolution of your personal identity and attachments. What triggers the ego death are things like spiritual practices. Some people take psychedelics. There's intense meditation can trigger an ego death, and even sudden insights. The experience of an ego death can feel like a gradual loss of self, where you're not feeling unity with anything, and you're just kind of feeling overwhelmed. But the outcome of the ego death is a radical shift in your perception, and it leads to enlightenment, inner peace, and redefining of yourself. So the third thing that you saw in the title there, the existential crisis. This is more of the mental and philosophical aspect of yourself. The focus during the existential crisis is it's a period of deep questioning, asking yourself, what is the meaning of my life? What is my purpose? What is the value of life? Why am I here? And it can be triggered, this existential crisis can arise when someone feels disconnected from their identity or the world around them, triggered by major life events, loss, trauma, big transitions, or it can develop during deep meditation. So the experience of the existential crisis might feel unsettling, bringing about depression and anxiety and feeling that life is meaningless. But this can ultimately lead to personal growth if you're willing to do the work. The outcome of the existential crisis can lead to, it can lead to despair, but ultimately it's a renewed sense of purpose. So these three things, they sound very heavy, don't they? Well, it can be. And next, I want to talk about how they connect and interact with each other. So an existential crisis often sparks the dark night, and it can lead to questioning, all kinds of aspects of ourselves, but it can also lead to spiritual despair. This combination of the existential crisis and the dark night. And then once you're into the dark night, that can lead to your ego death, where you surrender fully to this process of transformation. It does take time, but if you're patient with yourself, you will incur this sense and realization of transformation. So the ego death can resolve your existential crisis by dissolving rigid attachments that you may have to yourself and others around you, and finding meaning beyond your personal identity. So whether you're in the dark night, the ego death, or the existential crisis, there comes a low point, a breaking point. And this is the most important part of this lesson. This is where you ask yourself, are you going to resist or are you going to surrender? So if you're resisting these things that are becoming obvious to you that you need to work on, that can lead to extreme suffering and depression and feelings of being stuck. You cycle through this nihilism, this feeling that life is not worth living, and it can lead to hopelessness for years if left unattended. But instead of resisting, when you surrender, that's the key turning point. That opens the door to profound transformation and deeper wisdom and a reconstructed sense of meaning and self. You emerge with a completely new understanding of yourself, your purpose, and your connection to life. So to get past the resistance, the first thing you're going to want to do is recognize that you're resisting. And then be open to embracing the unknown. This sounds so easy, but it's not easy. Let go of your ego and identity and trust the process. That is not an easy thing. And this is why I'm constantly talking about journaling, meditation, getting in touch with nature. All these tools are going to help you through each one of these phases, so stick with it. Here's a couple prompts for your journaling to help you through these different aspects of the healing journey. So the first question is, am I resisting change because of fear or because I don't trust the unknown? The second question is, if I release the need to define who I am, what remains? The next question is, if my identity is stripped away, what truth about myself is left? And here's a question that's a good place to start. What is one small thing that I can surrender today? When you think you might be going through 1, 2, or all 3 of these phases, the dark night, the ego death, and the existential crisis, use this video as a guide. Do some research, take action, and seek help and support. Don't ever completely isolate yourself from others. Of course, you're going to want to spend some time alone through this meditation and working through these things, but always reach out to others for support and guidance. Don't try to handle this on your own, whether that's through YouTube videos, reading books, or talking in person to support, whether it's friend, clergy, or even a therapist. Please don't try to work through these phases of the journey on your own. There's plenty of help out there. You just have to take that step to ask for it. So be proactive. At least once a day, try to interact with people. Work towards healing. Do positive activities and make sure you work in some exercise and a healthy diet in there. Do the work. Be patient and allow yourself grace as you work through these stages of the dark night of the soul, the ego death, and the existential crisis, which ultimately bring you through to the other side, to a better and best version of yourself. I hope you're doing well, everyone, and taking good care of yourselves. I wish you peace, love, and light, as always. And I'll see you again soon. That's it for now. Take care.